let's talk about worst sets. Or at least, worst sets according to this guy. Or rather, these three guys sharing the same channel at that moment who all came up with this list together, but left only one of them to provide the vocals for it.
Hello, this is ToonLord635 here, and today I'll be going over a list of 15 sets that Cork Studios, Shadow Wolf Hound, and I deem to be the worst Bionicle sets.
Oh, we're representing ourselves in our mocks? Nah.
Kicking off this list, we got the Toa Nuva.
Oh, no you don't. The Toa Nuva aren't flawless, but not 15 worst sets bad. As a result, here are some of the sets you've indirectly given a free pass to. The Balrog Call, who were the definition of laziness for this franchise. Kreka, who was a hot mess to begin with. Umbra, with its difficulty in standing and overtly clashing color scheme and year gimmicks. And with the clear bias against G2 we'll be seeing later, I'm surprised you didn't jump at the chance to shit on Lord of Skull Spiders, whose build sacrifices articulation for a single gimmick in a way that might make it a reasonable objective choice. I love the set myself, but I'm just throwing that out there.
The new limb piece restricts forward movement to points unimaginable. I don't think any of us really thought that it could get worse than the Mata. So, they did. The leg piece has a little stopper molded into the upper piece.
Can you zoom in out a bit? There we go. For the record, I still can't see what you're referring to. I can show you myself since I have one of those Nuva limbs. Here's what they're talking about.
I'm pretty sure they could have gone away with just including normal arms and putting wings in the back of it. Or heck, take some inspiration from a clone of him, which would be Mutron.
How do those two look like clones of each other? In the traditional Bionicle sense.
Not to mention, Hordika legs. Disgusting.
They are a disease that should be terminated with extreme prejudice.
You know, you never heard about anybody terminating with mild prejudice, do you?
2008 was a pretty hated year, and people didn't think it worse than that. Well, here's 2015, we'll get into that later.
I thought 2015 was pretty well liked, at least in terms of sets. Your mileage may vary, of course, but at least I thought it was better received in 2008. It seemed to be at worst controversial.
And the Metru feet, ugh, that just makes proportions awkward.
Really? They don't look too bad. And if you think they do, it's clear that this is the least of the set's problems.
I really think they should have switched Onua and Gali around if they're gonna do that. Switch the colors around, at least Gali and stick as bulky.
While they do belong on a list like this for their base builds, what's stopping you from doing just that? Get both sets, swap the appropriate connectors in the feet, give the weapons and masks over, and they would probably look better for you. I'm not defending them, especially if the sets were built already given their fragile connector pieces, but I just wanted to get that thought out there.
Some people may argue that Combiner model isn't exactly a set, which is true. As if LEGO would upload instructions to the website, it would not have been an actual set. But Ultimate Doom was released at Target exclusive. The same goes for Voparak, Cardaz, and I think that's about it. Even Ernak was released at Walmart exclusive. So here we go. Awkwardly thin limbs, poorly distributed color scheme, and a model looks absolutely nothing like it's supposed to. Look in the Legends of Metru Nui and you'll see what the set's supposed to look like. Makuta with wings. They failed miserably to make it even look reminiscently close to what it's intended to be.
It's taking three drastically different sets with three drastically different color schemes, one of which was, as I said earlier, a hot mess to begin with. You can't take Kreka, Nidiki, Duma, and Nivok and expect to make something as consistent as 2003 Shadow Titan Makuta. For the record, if it's not supposed to look like that, then why did the comics use that design? The movie diverged from the set really because they ate up their model budget creating entirely new models for most of the characters. So it's more of the movie not following the set by limitations. That, and I think it's supposed to look cobbled together, since it is canonically made from those three characters. I personally think it looks awesome for what it is. If we're talking combiner models that were sold at retail, then Ernak is worse at it than Ultimate Duma.
I'm pretty sure most of you are going to question why these sets didn't place lower in our list, because these are the most hated sets of Bionicle, the Toa Hordika.
Really? I thought the Toa Mistaka were among the most hated Bionicle sets. And different strokes for different folks, I suppose.
2005 was a pretty shitty year for Bionicle all around. Nobody really liked it. The only set that I see people praise constantly is Rudaka, and that's for, well, disgusting reasons that we will not bring up.
I thought all the Titans from that year were alright. And what about the Vizorak? We got the Toa Haga that year too, who were more of the beloved Toa Metru. 2005 isn't as much of a total loss as you claim it to be. Also, stop implying we want to bone our toys.
It is cool that they didn't completely butcher the set with a function much like the Metru.
So those are the Toa Metru? LEGO, you've lied to me for the better half of my entire childhood!
Here we got the Protector of Earth, also known as Korgot. This thing is supposedly a female.
I always thought they finalized these sets long before settling their characters, hence why Korgot looks more masculine than, say, the feminine-looking male Kivoda. It does feel like they swapped their genders just for the hell of it, but then again, I've seen worse instances of viewer gender confusion.
I'm a man. Whoop, gotta go.
With a tomb on his back, an odd neck, and a boring color scheme that poorly distributes its secondary color, we have an overall unlikable set.
And that's all you need! Not that the large blades and lengthy head left over from the larger Skrull constantly clash and make it awkward to pose, or that it suffers from the same issues as the Av-Matoran with pre-bent limbs and a torso that can't be used any more creatively than what they were intended to be used for.
Another batch of clones for the mid-years of Bionicle, we have the Rahaga, a group of midgets with raunchy heads and odd posability. No individual elements, no creativity, just a generic, shitty $5 set.
I would hardly call them uncreative given the pieces they're made out of, but I do admit that the Roxy heads made them look like villain sets until Web of Shadows proved me wrong. They are awkward and not the best sets, but at least they make decent parts packs.
People call it male golly, and I enjoy calling it that name because this set genuinely strikes me as a male. They failed to give this set feminine proportions, and they failed to strike it off as a female to me. Some people may argue that's the most feminine set of Bionicle, but we disagree.
Then how does one make a female using CCBS? Hell, how is Galimata or no Commentary any more feminine than this Gali, especially compared to their male counterparts? If you're going as far as to criticize the figure for being masculine design, then please elaborate on how a CCBS figure can come off as feminine to you. You all have a Worst Hero Factory sets video where you labeled Breakout Breeze as the original male Gali, where you also never explained how the system can create a female figure either, as if the answer's obvious. If it's because they use the same build as their male contemporaries, then how is that any different from Galimata, Nuva, or no Commentary, who are built exactly like their male companions? I'm not providing an answer because I admit I don't have one. I don't have a creative enough mind to figure that one out. But then again, not every female has to be flawlessly curved. If anything, given the parts that they had, I think this is the most feminine CCBS is going to get until they make female-specific pieces, which probably isn't going to happen. And if you disagree that's the most feminine set of Bionicle, then show us what you think is the most feminine set of Bionicle. If it's Rudaka, then she's a Titan set, so of course she has the pieces to make her look feminine. We're looking at an apples-to-apples comparison here with Galimata, Nuva, Dokama Metru, and Galia Koto. And one last note, female characters have used male masks, and the masks introduced on female characters have been used on males as well. So the feminine mask argument is weak too.
Your move, creep.
The random trans orange is funny as well. I find it odd that every trans orange piece aside from the Borak eyes and the trans light blue and skull warrior doesn't exist in the color that goes along with these sets. Wouldn't it be nice if we had trans purple 3-longs? Not just for mocking, would have improved the look of the set. People say the trans orange adds an evil element to it, but if you ask me, it makes it look silly.
Oh no, how dare the trans orange break up a dull gray color scheme. Also, it serves as another element that unites these skull villains. If the armored parts that could imply a burning rage is silly looking, then I just don't get you.
By adding bright colors to a supposedly evil and dark set, they kind of ruin the color scheme and the overall look of the set.
By that logic, the 2009 Skrull, Shadow Titan Makuta, and Maxilos are all stupid looking. This could also be conceived as a problem on a set you guys praised in another video, Black Phantom, who has as much trans neon green armor as Skullbasher has trans neon orange. A whole 2 pieces!
A random dark gray Nike torso that throws off the color scheme is just one of the many things wrong with this set.
Again, how dare they break up an overtly bright green color scheme?
I don't know who thought it'd be a good idea to spam lime green Av-Matoran limbs on a canister set. I really don't. Odd looks, odd proportions, and odd color placement, yeah, this is worthy of being called the 4th worst Bionicle set.
That was quick for not only the 4th worst set on the list, but also a set you claim to have numerous flaws. Also, notice the lack of positive things said about these sets. Even the worst things have something of value about them.
This set only has 2 pieces of cladding, much less than XD4. Sure, he's a skeleton, but he's also a gladiatorial warrior according to the storyline in LEGO magazine.
Holy shit, a legitimate criticism of a G2 Bionicle set! Don't get used to it, guys.
LEGO's refusal to make new pieces is painfully obvious.
Yeah, LEGO refuses to make any new pieces. That's why the Skull villains introduced spine armor, femur bones, 2 new masks, 2 new weapon types, and these curved bits. I won't argue about lacking certain recolors, but my point still stands. Also, isn't LEGO supposed to be about reusing the same old parts and making something new out of them?
Seeing as LEGO decided to reuse the Skull Spider mask, a piece that we've seen 13 other times, with 4 of those being the same color of flat silver.
It's one thing if they spammed it as another silver Skull Spider, but here it's used as a face and not a creature. It actually gives Slicer a distinct visual identity from the other Skull villains, and as much as I don't find Slicer that great a design at the moment, I at least think that the Skull Spider mask does look good on him. Well, better than if they just spammed another of the Skull villain masks.
Another fine example of trans orange being an eyesore.
Because a mostly neon green build isn't an eyesore.
This set is overall messy, starting off with a poorly constructed weapon that you've pretty much seen before with the jungle and stone protector.
How is the bow poorly constructed? Your arguments are poorly constructed!
Unoriginality, sloppiness.
He's supposed to be an undead warrior, of course it looks sloppy! And it doesn't need to bring much new, seeing as how he's a generic soldier.
The good guy and bad guy polybags. These sets are shitty, but they don't really come off as actual sets since they're promotions and freebies.
And they do try to pull off a design out of the limited pieces. And like the Rahaga, they make decent parts packs if you go out of your way to get them.
Skull Scorpio. You know a set sucks when even Pedo Jang hates it.
And that matters because...
No posability in the legs, random trans orange claws that are a massive eyesore that you can't even fix because we do not have trans lime green claws.
Again, adding trans lime green to a set already screaming with it won't look worse?
And like, if they should have done something along the lines of the new Ijaga, where it's this actual stinging tail rather than a pair of scissors mounted to the back of this thing.
To harp on your obvious stumble here would be too hypocritical. But luckily, there are other things I childishly bitched and moaned about.
Feel free to agree, disagree, write your own lists, do whatever. Comment calling us brain-dead retards.
I won't go that far. You did that yourselves. The main owner of this channel also did a commentary on the 3 Virtues' worst Bionicle sets list. Specifically the number 1 segment, which is the Av-Matoran from 2008's Fantoka line, with special criticism reserved for Soleg. There are some legitimate arguments here, but it's bad enough to commentate on.
That great honor goes to the Av-Matoran, but specifically, Soleg. The Av-Matoran build perfectly represents everything that went wrong with the later years of Bionicle Generation 1. It took away the functions and complexity of design that Bionicle had been known for its entire lifespan.
Do you know what are you talking about? The Matoran have always been like that, besides 2007 somewhat, and 2006 with the ugly looking Matoran was just really simple builds and just had feet for their body besides the cool Matoran.
What's wrong with having Borak feet for a torso? Honestly, using a part explicitly designed to be a foot as a torso shows how creative some of these designers can be. The Av-Matoran had pre-designed chunks of plastic that can hardly be used for anything other than this build. You could argue the same with the Metro Nui Matoran and the 2003 guys as well, but the Vaki and Sidorak derailed that argument. The piece count dropped with these guys too.
As for the function, all the Matoran besides 2003 only have weapon gimmicks that could easily be replaced with something else that isn't a gimmick. Like, I don't know, nachos, a chimpanzee, a protest sign saying Lego, please get us sped to sockets, these keep cracking a lot.
A lightsaber, a golden mask of power, a better sense of humor.
Plus, again with the 2006 Matoran, they never have a function at all, so why aren't they on the honorable mentions as well?
Because at least they're creative in their parts reuse. And if you don't like them as sets, you can use them as a decent parts pack. Try implementing any of the Av-Matoran pieces into a mock. Other than that part! And if you use Gardas as an example of how they can be implemented, I think you're overlooking the fact that Gardas is a nearly indistinguishable mass of limbs. That's the point of the character, I get that. And I understand that most combiners are just as big of a mess. But if that's the best you can do with those pieces, then it shows how truly specialized they were. At least we saw the Mata and Nuva limbs used in other sets. And they get a free pass because they were just starting out and trying to figure things out. And we loved them when we were kids anyway, which adds a veil of nostalgia to their charm.
In favor of large, specialized chunks of plastic, pre-bent limbs that could not articulate in the slightest, and, in the case of the Av-Matoran, obnoxious large heads that protruded from the neck to a crazy degree. These problems persisted across numerous waves of Bionicle in the future, including the Av-Matoran, Agori, and Bionicle Stars. The basic formula even spilled over into Hero Factory.
The Matoran never have any good movable limbs ever, and even the Mata and Nuva didn't have it as well, and they also have big chunks of plastic. Also, these Matoran are the best movable sets when it comes to the Matorans. I mean, look at all the other use of the Matorans. They all have problem with moving their arms and legs, and even posing.
Again, the Mata and Nuva limbs were at least implemented into other sets. Better than that! And really, all of the Matoran had the exact same amount of articulation. The Av-Matoran were the most free in their movement, I'll grant you that, but the others were made using mostly pre-made parts in new and creative ways, at least in 2006 and 2007. Also, I will defend Pyro to my grave as one of the best Matoran we ever had.
Mesonac, was you playing too much Halo Reach while making the script for this list? You know what? No Xbox for you for a day.
Oh no, not the Xbox! It's not like Mesonac can play any other gaming system, or work on video projects, or go outside and contribute something to society outside of ranting at others for having legit reasons to hate on bad sets.
Now, the basic build is shared among these waves, so all of them automatically receive honorable mentions in this countdown. The Agorian Stars, however, had certain sets that at least occasionally broke from the simplistic design to attempt something with a modicum of creativity. I'm thinking of sets like Tarduk, sets like Zesk, even Skrull and Rakshi to a degree, and if you want to go from the 08 wave, the Shadow Matoran have Radiac, and he tried to do something.
Almost all the sets that are around the toy under its price tag are mostly humanoid build. If you are going to count that, then why give the Naika and Paraka build a free pass? Because most of those sets that have it have lack of creativity, since they have the humanoid build. While Mantax, Scroll, Shrek, and I guess immature did something different, instead of just doing the same thing, just with different armor.
Because the Naika and Paraka build's problems came from its unoriginal reuse throughout the 3 years it was reused for, not the issues with the sets that introduced them. Your mileage may vary with how the Naika and Paraka were, but the issues with the Av-Matoran build were there from the beginning. All of them had pre-bent limbs, all of them had few pieces, even fewer that could be used effectively in other sets, and while all of them had fragile connectors, that's hardly a problem exclusive to the Av-Matoran, as every set from that year onwards until Hero Factory 2.0's introduction of CCPS had fragile connector pieces. Also, if Motoro Mari counts as a Naika build that did something slightly different, I'm surprised you didn't include the Vorox as another example, even if it is just slapping a tail on its back.
What makes Solek worse than the other two, then, you may ask? Simple. The build may remain the same, but at least Tanma and Photok have vibrant color schemes featuring colors that had only recently begun to come back to the forefront, such as lime green and orange.
If you are going to say what I think you are going to say, I will add another day to no Xbox for you.
Quiet!
And I'll take away your chocolate milk.
No! Anything but the chocolate milk!
Solek goes so far as to take away the color of light or transparent blue that fans have become accustomed to seeing with white armored characters for years, and replaces it with gray.
Great job, Messenac. You got no Xbox for 2 days, and you lost your chocolate milk.
No! I have soda. And apple juice.
These are the only white sets that has some sort of blue color in 2007 and under in use when they came out. Now here white sets with gray colors. Blue is hardly a big thing in white color sets. It have only became a big thing for only 2 years.
Notice that 5 of these sets have some blue in them, no matter how little. Also, 2 years is more than enough time to get used to a certain aspect of a set type, like the brown sets turning yellow, which even then only applied to Huki's Toa forms, Biddle, Glatorian Monodui, and Stars Rockshi.
Oh, by the way, Kopaka don't have any blue, and Solek is a Av-Matoran, not a Cool-Matoran.
Oh, so being an Av-Matoran excuses a boring as shit color scheme. That's great logic! Also, you showed that Coal-Matoran had the same kind of color scheme. Being an Av-Matoran is no excuse.
So, end of commentary, and now I am going to take this Xbox and putting it somewhere you can't get it.
At least the Av-Matoran have one good feature. Some of them will eventually become Bullrock. Those are classics.